Okay, so let me just read it out. It's, hello, English learner. Welcome to our channel, English Learning Master. Let's start our today's video. And that's it. You're here because, well, you want to get smarter faster, right, to build up your knowledge, but without getting totally bogged down in, endless details.
Yeah, who has time for that?
Exactly. So consider this your kind of streamlined path to boosting your everyday English vocabulary.
We looked at sources covering English vocabulary for everyday life. Quite a bit out there.
We have. And our mission really is to pull out the words and phrases that genuinely matter in common situations.
Think of it like getting the practical communication tools you can, start using right away.
We'll be covering a few key areas. Your daily routines, for starters.
And food and cooking, always a good one.
Definitely. Getting comfortable with social interactions, too.
And finally, travel and transportation. How to get around.
Yeah. Expect some hopefully useful insights and maybe a few linguistic surprises along the way.
It's actually quite remarkable when you think about how these basic words, these vocabulary items, really form the bedrock of how we communicate. Often, learners get drawn to complex grammar or really niche words, but having a solid grasp of these everyday terms, that gives you an incredibly strong foundation.
For expressing yourself clearly, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's dive right in with daily routines. Something we all share, right?
Definitely.
Think about waking up. You'll probably encounter an alarm clock.
Oh, yeah. That sounds sometimes pretty insistent.
Ah, right. That signal that your day's starting. Maybe you even hit snooze.
Guilty. Gotta have those few extra moments sometimes.
Me too. Before you actually, get out of bed. Pretty universal things, wouldn't you say?
Very much so.
Then comes getting ready. You brush your teeth, using a toothbrush, obviously, to clean them.
Standard procedure.
You wash your face, and then, well, you get dressed, put on clothes for the day.
It's kind of fascinating how these seemingly simple actions are so embedded in culture.
How so?
Well, like the specific time someone wakes up, or even having a snooze button, it can sort of hint at societal norms, maybe about punctuality or personal rhythms,
That's a great point. And it keeps going with breakfast. Maybe you make coffee.
Coffee. Essential.
That whole ritual of preparing a warm drink, often caffeinated to kickstart the morning. Or perhaps you have toast.
Simple, effective, slices of bread, heated up, nice and crisp.
Or maybe you go for cereal. Those grain-based foods, usually with milk.
Classic breakfast options.
Now, as you head out, maybe to work or study, how do you get there? You might take the bus.
Public transport, yeah.
Or maybe you drive your own car.
Or even cycle. Get some exercise on your bicycle.
That's true.
And this kind of brings up an interesting point about how efficient language can be.
Oh.
We just have these single words, bus, drive, cycle, for these common ways of getting around. It highlights how frequent they are in our lives.
Yeah, that's efficient. Okay, so you arrive at your workplace or maybe your study environment. You'll likely sit at a desk.
Your personal workspace, yeah.
You probably use a computer. Pretty indispensable tool for most people these days.
Hard to imagine work or study without one, really.
Depending on your work, you might attend a meeting.
Right, a gathering to discuss things, share info.
Or if you're studying, you'll be in a classroom, probably taking notes to remember key information.
Notice how the environment itself shapes the vocabulary we reach for. Desk, computer, classroom, they immediately place you somewhere specific.
Good observation. Okay, fast forward to the end of the day. Time for dinner. You might cook something at home.
The ideal, maybe.
Or if time's short, maybe you order takeout, get food from a restaurant to eat at home.
Very convenient sometimes.
Or maybe just eat leftovers from last night's meal.
Resourceful.
Then, to unwind in the evening, popular choices, maybe watching TV.
Or reading a book.
Listening to music, lots of options for relaxing.
Absolutely.
And as the day really winds down, you'll probably set the alarm again.
Preparing for the next morning already.
And then hopefully fall asleep.
What's kind of insightful there is the cyclical nature of it all. The language we use for the evening often anticipates the start of the next day. It links these parts of our lives.
It really does. And just getting familiar with these basic words and phrases, even if they seem, really straightforward.
Yeah.
It's such a crucial step towards feeling more comfortable, more confident when you're communicating in everyday English.
It's totally about developing that kind of muscle memory for the language, isn't it?
Yes.
The more comfortable you are with these fundamentals, the more easily they'll just pop into your head when you're talking.
Okay, let's shift gears. Let's move into the delicious world of food and cooking.
Yum.
It often kicks off with grocery shopping. You might make a shopping list first, keep track of what you need.
Good idea. Saves time. And money.
True. In the store, you'll walk down an aisle, that pathway between all the shelves.
Stocked high with goods.
You'll probably use a shopping cart or maybe a basket to carry your items.
Right.
And then you head to the checkout to pay.
Where you meet the cashier, the person who scans your items and takes the payment. Think about the efficiency again with those terms. Aisle. It immediately brings up that supermarket layout image, right? It simplifies how we talk about navigating the store.
Definitely. Now, what about the stuff in the cart? Some common ingredients, fruits, like an apple or a banana,
Healthy choices.
vegetables, maybe a carrot or an onion.
Staples.
If you eat meat, perhaps chicken or beef.
Common proteins.
In the dairy section, you'd find things like milk and cheese.
Got it.
And for greens, popular choices are things like rice or pasta.
Yeah, very common carbohydrates. And it's helpful, I think, not just to see these as individual items, but to know they belong to broader categories.
Like dairy or vegetables.
Exactly. Knowing the word dairy, for instance, helps you understand a whole group of related products. Milk, cheese, yogurt.
Good point. Okay, so you've got your ingredients. Now you're ready to cook. You'll need some cooking verbs.
Fraction words.
Right. You might chop vegetables, cut them into smaller pieces.
Chop, chop, chop.
You could slice a tomato, maybe, into thin layers.
Slice. Got it.
You might boil water in a pot, maybe for pasta.
Boil. Heat liquid until it bubbles.
Or you could fry an egg in a pan.
Fry. Cooking in hot fat or oil.
Baking usually involves cooking in the oven, like when you bake bread or a cake.
Bake. Dry heat.
And to stir is to mix ingredients together, often with a spoon or something similar.
Stir. Keep
Wow.
things moving. And notice how these verbs describe really specific actions and techniques in the kitchen. Understanding them lets you follow recipes or just talk about making food.
Absolutely. And you'll need tools, of course. Kitchen utensils, a knife for cutting,
Essential.
a fork for eating solid food, usually, a spoon for liquids, or maybe for stirring.
The classic trio.
You'll cook in a pan, which is usually shallow and has a handle.
Right, for frying, sautéing.
Or pot, which is typically deeper, maybe for boiling or making soup.
Pan and pot.
Yeah.
Key cookware. What's kind of interesting is how these basic tools, knife, fork, spoon, pan, pot, they haven't really changed much for ages.
That's true.
And the vocabulary for them is just as enduring. Very stable words.
So let's imagine putting it all together. Maybe for a quick breakfast, you slice an apple with your knife.
Yep.
And have it with some cereal and milk. Using a spoon, probably.
Sounds simple enough.
Or if you're making, say, a simple pasta dish, you might chop an onion,
Mm-hmm.
boil water in a pot for the pasta itself,
Right.
and maybe stir in some cheese once it's cooked.
See, using the vocabulary in context, that really helps lock it in.
Exactly. Seeing the words in action just makes them much more memorable, I think.
And it connects the abstract word to a real concrete action. That definitely helps you remember it.
Okay, moving on now to social interactions. This is the glue, really, that holds our communities together.
How we connect with each other. Crucial stuff.
For sure. When you greet someone, you'll often say hello. Pretty standard.
Hello.
And when you part ways, you'll say goodbye.
Or bye. See you later.
Yeah.
Variations exist.
True. If it's your very first time meeting someone, nice to meet you is a really polite and standard phrase.
Good one to know for introductions.
And a very common way to just check in on someone is to ask, how are you?
A conversation starter, definitely. Though sometimes the answer is just expected to be, fine, thanks. You know,
Yes, the ritual. But the level of formality matters here, doesn't it?
it does. Hello is pretty versatile, works in most situations. But nice to meet you has that specific context, the first meeting.
Right. Then there's small talk. Often how conversations get rolling after the initial greeting.
Filling the silence sometimes, but important.
You might comment on the weather. It's a beautiful day, isn't it? Classic.
Always a safe topic.
Or you could ask about hobbies. What do you like doing in your free time?
Gets a bit more personal, shows interest.
Or ask about weekend plans. Got anything fun planned for the weekend?
Yeah, looking ahead, these seemingly light topics, they serve a really important social function.
Which is?
They let us connect with people without getting, too personal right off the bat. Building rapport gently.
Nicely put. Okay, what about expressing your own views?
Important for actual conversation.
You can start with, I think. For example, I think this is a really good idea.
Simple, direct.
If you agree with what someone else said, a simple, I agree works perfectly.
Shows you're on the same page.
And if you have a different view, you can say, I disagree, hopefully politely.
Right. These short phrases are just crucial for actually participating in conversations, expressing your own viewpoint, respectfully, of course.
And if you need help, you need to make a request.
Happens all the time.
You can say, can you help me? Or maybe a bit more formally, could you please?
Adding that please makes a difference.
It really does. It's generally seen as more polite, and people usually appreciate it.
Yeah, those politeness markers like please or thank you, they can really influence how your request lands.
Absolutely. And finally, apologies or getting attention. If you've made a mistake or maybe bumped into someone, you'd say, I'm sorry to apologize.
Takes responsibility.
But if you just need to, say, get past someone in a crowded room or politely interrupt,
Yes.
then excuse me is the phrase to use.
Ah, okay. So there's a subtle difference there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry acknowledges some kind of error or fault, while excuse me is more often about politeness, like getting attention or navigating space.
Exactly. Let's maybe do a quick example. Imagine meeting someone new.
Okay.
You might say, hello, my name is, whatever your name is.
And they might reply, nice to meet you, your name.
Perfect. Or needing help finding something.
Okay.
Excuse me, could you please tell me where the library is?
Someone gives directions.
And you finish with, thank you.
Simple, effective. These brief exchanges show how these basic phrases all combine to make, meaningful social interactions happen.
Right. Okay, last section. Let's navigate the world of travel and transportation.
Getting from A to B.
Exactly. To get around, you might use a car, maybe your own, or a rental.
Or take a bus. Public transit again.
Travel by train, perhaps for longer distances over land.
Or fly in an airplane for really long distances or over water.
Or just catch a taxi or a rideshare for shorter trips within a city, maybe.
Each mode of transport really has its own set of words and logistical things to think about.
For sure. Like when you're at an airport or a train station, you'll definitely need a ticket to travel.
Your pass to get on board.
At a train station, you'll wait for your train on a specific platform.
Platform 9, 3/4. Maybe not.
Probably not. At an airport, you'll go to a specific gate to board your plane.
Gate C12, Gate 3B.
You'll likely have luggage with you, your bags and suitcases.
Containing all your stuff.
And specifically at the airport, you need that boarding pass to actually get onto the aircraft.
Got it. Ticket, platform, gate, luggage, boarding pass. Key travel words. And knowing these terms can seriously reduce stress and anxiety when you're trying to navigate these, often quite large and confusing transportation hubs.
Oh, absolutely. Now, what if you get lost or you're just unsure where to go?
Need to ask for help.
Right. You can ask for directions using phrases like, excuse me, where is?
Like, excuse me, where's the restroom? Always important.
Or how do I get to gate C12?
These are just indispensable phrases for any traveler, really. They empower you to seek help and find the information you need.
Totally. And when you need a place to stay, accommodation.
Yes, where you sleep.
You might book a room at a hotel.
Standard option.
Or maybe a more budget-friendly place like a hostel, often with shared rooms.
Right. Different types of places.
You'll usually make a reservation in advance to secure your spot.
Booking ahead. Good plan, usually.
When you arrive, you'll check in, usually at the reception desk. Give your details, get your key.
Check in. Got it.
And when it's time to leave, you'll check out. Settle your bill, return the key.
Check out. The end of the stay.
Yeah.
This vocabulary is pretty essential for planning your travels and just making them run smoothly.
Yeah. Picture this. You arrive in a totally new city. You take a taxi to your hotel.
All right.
You check in successfully.
Great.
And then you ask the person at the desk for directions to a nearby restaurant using, excuse me, how do I get to?
Sushi? Using the language?
Having this basic vocabulary just lets you handle these common travel scenarios with much more confidence, much more independence.
And it genuinely enhances the whole travel experience, doesn't it? It lets you engage more fully with where you are.
It really does. So, well, there you have it, our deep dive into essential English vocabulary.
We covered daily routines,
Food and cooking,
social interactions.
and travel and transportation. We've journeyed through quite a range of everyday situations.
We have.
Maybe take a moment now, just you listening, to think about how these words and phrases connect with your own life, your own experiences and interactions.
Yeah, the key now is really active application. Try to actually use these new words and phrases.
Right.
Weave them into your daily thoughts maybe, or conversations if you can.
Even just practicing them in your head.
Even internal practice can be incredibly helpful, yeah. Build those connections.
Exactly. The more you use them, the more natural they become, the more accessible. It strengthens your fluency and definitely builds your confidence. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Consider this. Each new word you learn isn't just, another item on a list.
Oh,
It's like a new lens, a new way to see and interact with the world and with other people.
that's a nice way to put it. Opens things up.
So, what linguistic landscapes will you explore next? What vocabulary areas do you want to focus on? That's maybe a question worth pondering.